Good afternoon. This is it's a good turnout for a technology talk, so I thank you for being here. And a quick show of hands, how many of you are city customers in the sense that you've applied for permits through the development center or any kind of approval? So pretty much everybody here. And how many of you have either applied for or attempted to apply for services through our online portal? A bit smaller number, maybe half. So some of you, it may just be that the service you want to interact with is not yet available, or maybe you weren't aware of what we offer, so you'll be more aware of that after we get through today. And questions are fine throughout. Feel free to interrupt. We are recording this, so Shante will bring you a microphone. So kind of general questions at the end, but if there's anything that's kind of on topic and you want to ask a question during, please do. And if I'm not looking at you, feel free to speak up and I'll stop. So technology is constantly evolving, and permitting technology and government software generally is similar. I just have an impression that we're a few years behind kind of state of the art. So like if you're interacting with like Amazon or something like that, you know, we're not quite at that level. We're probably a few years behind that at least. But our goal is to narrow that gap. You know, we want you to have a good experience when you work with our site, when you're applying for services. And we want to keep improving that. So we don't want to get to a point where we're just static and here it is and that's what you're going to have for the next 10 years. So you'll see changes, you'll see new services made available. And our vision, and this isn't just a development center, it's citywide, is for you to be able to interact with us anytime, anywhere, on any device, and I add almost for development because you're not going to apply for plan review from your phone and things like that. I mean, it's just really not practical, but many things you could do now from a phone, and certainly check for status updates and things like that. So our goal is for you to be able to do much more of that. And the clicker is working. So we're going to cover briefly the development and permitting process from a very high level because I'm sure all of you know approximately what that is. Background of the city's permitting technology, where we've been, where we are today, and where we are headed. So, the development and permitting process. There are different permutations of this. So, for example, not all projects require a preliminary planning approval. So a lot of interior build-outs, minor renovations, things like that. There is no preliminary planning approval required. But if it's something larger or if it's a use that's in a particular zone district where that use isn't common, planning commission approval might be required. And if it's a historic district and there's some kind of exterior change, historic approval would be required in advance. Then we would move on to the plan review process. So building permits, and in the city of Grand Rapids we have something called a land use or LUDS permit that you may be familiar with. That's a composite site permit that includes things like soil erosion control, zoning compliance, stormwater drainage approval, and paving approval if you're doing something like a parking lot. So we would do those reviews. They can be simultaneous. You can do land use before building, but if you need both, you're not going to get the building permit before the land use permit is approved. Then we issue the permits, building and perhaps land use if you need that. All the trade permits that you're familiar with, things like electrical, mechanical, plumbing, fire suppression. Then on to inspections. As you know, there can be many types of inspections, and a large project could potentially include hundreds of inspections if you think about all the visits that someone is going to be making on behalf of the city, for example, to a new high-rise. So that can be the longest. Typically, it is the longest phase of the development and permitting process. And then at the end, of course, your goal is a certificate of completion or certificate of occupancy. And most of this now can be done online through the city's permitting portal. And what can't be today will be available soon. Most of it before the end of the year and into a bit into 2018. If I push this twice, I'm sure it'll go 2 slides forward now. There we go. Okay. Background, 10 years ago we did not have any online services. You couldn't look up anything, you couldn't apply for anything, just wasn't anything available. We made plan review comment lookup available first, so you'd apply for a permit and you could at least go in and see who had reviewed what and what they'd said about the plans. And that was really all we had for a couple of years until we did a major system upgrade. That was about 8 years ago, 7, 8 years ago. We selected a system called Acela Automation, and it is one of the largest players. This company is one of the largest players in terms of permitting, inspection, record keeping, and those types of services. We made some initial applications available online in 2011, and over the last 5 years, 6 years, we have built those out to the point where we now have 71 different services that are related to development that you can apply for online. We have extended that to include economic development, ability to apply for those incentives through this system. We added e-plan review, but only for LUDs. It's an Adobe-based solution. It's really not right for plan sets that go into dozens or hundreds of pages. So we never did extend that for building review, but we have something else that we're closing in on that we should be using around the end of this year, early next year. We added onto that base Acela permitting solution, we added something called Building Eye, which allows the public to look up what's happening in their neighborhood through a map-based interface and to receive emailed alerts specific to their neighborhood or a fixed radius around a property that's of interest to them, their home, their business. So we added that last year, and we also switched to a responsive design. So I mentioned that you can do many things now on any device. We switched to a responsive design that will now work well on a phone, smartphone. We switched to that last year. We actually are receiving 2/3 of our building and trade permits online. So there has been good adoption of these services, and we are hoping to drive that higher.